Know your place. Shut up and smile. Don't spread your legs. I could do that, but no one knows me, no one ever will. If I don't say something, if I just lie still, would I be that monster, scare them all away? If I let them hear what I have to say, I can't keep quiet, no, I can't keep quiet, no, a one-woman riot, no, I can't keep quiet for anyone. No, not anymore, 'cause no one knows me, no one ever will. If I don't say something, take that dry blue pill, they may see that monster, they may run away, but I have to do this. Oh, I can't keep quiet, no, I can't keep quiet, no, a one-woman riot, no, oh, I can't keep quiet. There'll be someone who understands. There'll be someone who understands. Let it out now, let it out now. There'll be someone who understands. Let it out now, let it out now. I can't keep quiet, no, no, I can't keep quiet, no, I can't keep quiet, oh no, no, I won't keep quiet.
Thank you, Miriam. That was absolutely beautiful. So as we enter into our time of gratitude this morning, I want us to take a moment to really think about what it means to feel safe in this world. And there is a sadness in the air today in Grand Junction because of, and I'm going to call it an evil that took place this week against a member of one of our homeless community. A person named Warren was murdered this week while he was sleeping under a bridge. And if you read about the story in the Daily Sentinel, I can only call it evil. It was premeditated. And so as we enter into this moment of gratitude, this is a reminder of the inherent worth and dignity of every person, every person. And so as we take this time, if you go to bed at night and lie down feeling safe about not having to worry about being attacked in your sleep, please take a moment to think about how very basic that is. And when we have homeless people show up here at this church and tell us that this is a safe space for them, there is a depth of meaning to those words that almost can't be expressed. So for this day today, I am grateful that I am a part of a community of people who are intentionally working day in and day out to be a safe place in a world that for so many is not safe. And please, during this moment of gratitude, please send Puka and all of the volunteers at Solidarity Not Charity and Grand Junction Mutual Aid and Sherry Cole and everybody who works in our homeless community with our houseless community and everybody in this community that feels insecure and doesn't have a safe place to sleep at night. Please send them your love. Let us take a moment now just to be grateful for what we have as we listen to the words and really take in the words. This is my song.
This is my song, O God of all the nations, a song of peace for lands afar and mine. This is my home, the country where my heart is. Here are my hopes, my dreams, my holy shrine. But other hearts in other lands are beating with hopes and dreams as true and high as mine. My country's skies are bluer than the ocean, and sunlight beams on clover leaf and pine. But other lands have sunlight too, and clover, and skies are everywhere as blue as mine. Oh, hear my song, thou God of all the nations, a song of peace for their land and for mine.
This congregation is a community of ourselves. Its energy and resources are our energy and resources. Its wealth is what we share. As we contribute to its life, we affirm our lives within it.
From you I receive, together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live.
Sarah Paretsky wrote in her novel Bleeding Kansas, she said, "The hardest thing about adolescence is that everything seems too big. There's no way to get context or perspective. Pain and joy without limits. No one can live like that forever, so experience finally comes to our rescue. We come to know what we can endure and also that nothing endures. This month is the theme of commitment, and in my newsletter article that many of you received this week, I asked a few questions to ponder. And some of these questions were, what are the things in your life that you are committed to? Do you know why you're committed to them? Do you know how to translate that commitment into actions that produce your desired results? And is it okay for your desired outcome to take longer than you expected? And is it worth the wait? And then on the other side, when is it time to let go of something you committed to in the past that no longer serves you? And what does it mean to walk away from a commitment versus simply letting go of something that is toxic? And how do we know the difference? Because sometimes people hold on too long, and sometimes people let go too soon. And the key is beginning to understand the difference and knowing what you are doing and why. So I believe that there's a difference between being determined and being stubborn. Determination offers you a grounding and a direction. You know where you're going and you know why. And within determination is the ability to pivot, to reason, and if needed, to modify your direction. When a person is determined, they are committed. The ideas, the goals, and the process are not fleeting. And so there are some things that are worth letting go of, but many times we let go too soon. Some outcomes are worth staying in the process, working with the growth, and staying commitment throughout the wait. But like I said, discernment is figuring out when it's time to let go and when it's time to hold on. And sometimes we release commitments because we are ready to move in a new direction or commit to something else. Sometimes it serves us to take a deeper look before letting go. And my guess is that for many of us, we are living through both of these experiences at the same time. There are some things in our life that we maybe need to double down on and say, I'm committed to this. And there might be some things that it's time to think about and say, maybe this is no longer serving me. And if only there were easy answers to know which one is which and when. So what I have found throughout the years is that our 7 UU principles serve as a guidepost for me when I am in the process of discernment about what to commit to and what to release. Commitment takes grounding. It takes a calm strength. And I ask myself, is what I'm committed to honoring the inherent worth and dignity of every person, even if it's hard? Is it valuing the interconnected web of which we are a part? Is it helping me move forward in my own search for truth and meaning? If I find that the answer to each of these questions is yes, then I know I should stay committed, even when it's hard, even if it's scary, even if the path forward is unclear. At the same time, if I begin to realize that that commitment is not in alignment with my highest sense of truth, then maybe it's time to release it with love and move towards something else. Sometimes it can be easy to look at the circumstances in our lives and wonder why we should keep moving forward. And when we take a short-term perspective, some things in life can seem almost overwhelming with overwhelming odds. And when we hear about the stories about what happened to Warren this week, it can be enough to want to just hide under the covers and just give up and say to yourself, nothing will change. This is just a cold and cruel world, so why bother? The thing about commitment is that it requires a long-term perspective. It requires us to be in dialogue with our past, with our present, and with our future. And when we have this long perspective, our commitment turns into something called endurance. And in order to have endurance, you need three things. You need context. Where have you been? You need perspective. Where am I now? And we need to have a sense of future hope and purpose. Where are we going and why? And I believe that as we come to terms with these three things, then we are able to move forward with endurance. So in other words, we must know why we are advocating for something. We must understand where we are in relation to the struggle, and we must be able to see it from a larger, longer perspective. So if we start with contextualizing this in the past, we realize that many of the struggles that we're dealing with today were struggles and causes that started many, many years ago. The foremothers and fathers who started many of these movements entered into the struggle, understanding that they very well may never see the fruits of their labor in their lifetime. But for some reason, they were committed to continuing to move forward. And it's important that we understand that something may be larger than us and acknowledge that we stand on the shoulders and eat the fruits of the many people who struggled before us. We can see this in regards to things like women's suffrage, civil rights, gay rights, and we also see it in regards to science and medical advances. We are not constantly reinventing the wheel. So when we get discouraged, it's good to take a step back and put things in this context. Where have we been? And where are we going? And sometimes the understanding that we are part of something that is larger than us is what gives us the renewed strength and commitment to continue moving forward. Dr. Harding was a voice and mentor in the civil rights movement. He was a professor at ILF, and I've quoted him throughout the years. But when he was teaching his classes and we would say, this is so discouraging to look at how far we've come to feel like we just haven't gotten very far, he would say, yes, we have a long ways to go, but we must also recognize how far we have come. So understanding our past is a key ingredient to having endurance and commitment. But once we've taken an honest look at our past, in order to continue with our commitment, it's important to have a realistic understanding or perspective of where we are now, an understanding of the why, the reason to keep going. We must understand that the present moment, right here, right now, is valuable. It's where we are and it's our turn. Because the present moment is where our true power is. Because actually, all we ever have is the present moment. And Mahatma Gandhi offered a good perspective on the importance of the moment. He understood that things change, that our perspectives change, and yet he never wavered on his long-term goal. But he was willing to assess where he was in the present. I shared a quote of his from him a while ago that some people gave me a little bit of pushback on, but I'm going to share it again and just let us think about it. Gandhi said, "My aim is not to be consistent with my previous statements on a given question, but to be consistent with truth as it may present itself to me at a given moment. The result has been that I have grown from truth to truth." In other words, Gandhi was not hindered by his past understandings. When truth as he understood it changed, he was willing to recognize that truth and alter his course without apology. Thomas Merton was a staunch opponent to the Vietnam War, and he understood the need for keeping perspective and for staying centered in the present moment. In one of the letters he wrote to his friend Jim Forrest during that time, he wrote, "Do not depend on the hope of results. When you are doing the sort of work you have taken on, essentially an apostolic work, you may have to face the fact that your work will be apparently worthless and even achieve no result at all, if not perhaps results opposite to what you expect. As you get used to this idea, you start more and more to concentrate not on the results, but on the value, the rightness, the truth of the work itself. And there too, a great deal has to be gone through as gradually you struggle less and less for an idea and more for a specific people. The range tends to narrow down, but it gets much more real. In the end, it is the reality of personal relationships that saves everything. So we have to have perspective, realizing that what we want in any given moment might not be achievable in the way we understand it. However, the key is to continue moving forward, even in the midst of the uncertainty. And Women Who Run with Wolves, Clarissa Pinkola Estes says, "Ours is not the task of fixing the entire world all at once, but of stretching out to mend the part of the world that is within our reach." And Nelson Mandela said, "It always seems impossible until it's done." And so finally, we cannot begin to understand the concept of longevity and endurance and commitment if we do not also have a relationship with the future. So many times we think who we are is a reflection of our past. And what we don't always understand is that who we are right now in the present is also a reflection of our understanding of our future. Andrew Lester wrote an eye-opening book called Hope in Pastoral Care and Counseling. And in it, he argues that our understanding of our future stories is impacting who we are in the present moment. He says, at any given moment, each of us is working on our self in progress, not only by reassimilating the past and integrating it with the present, but also by using the unique self-transcendent process of imagining ourself in the future. Our identity obviously is not only influenced by the past that we recollect, but also by the future that we project. We cannot separate who we have been and who we are now from who we imagine we are becoming. He says, when a person is broken or wounded, we can assume that their perceptions of the future have been invaded, altered, or threatened. So if we are to have true endurance and commitment, we need to have a future story worth moving towards. This is very real, not only with the larger social causes that we have been talking about up until now, but this is also critically important in our individual day-to-day lives. I told Danny yesterday that for my birthday in September, I want her to give me a makeover with a new haircut and new clothes and new makeup. She's not going to do the haircut, but maybe choose a haircut for me. And I have this vision of myself being nice and strong. And so my commitment is to that vision, that I'll appreciate it more in 6 months if I actually make myself go to the gym and change my body shape a little bit. So I have something to look forward to. I have a reason to stay committed and doing something that may be hard or maybe not fun because of a future vision I have of who I want to be. When I was a freshman in high school and I joined the tennis team, Christy Clothier was the #1 singles player. And I remember as an incoming freshman, I looked at her in a state of awe. And I thought, when I'm a senior, I want to be as good as her. And so she became the vision of what I wanted to be 4 years from then. The vision of being as good as her became a source of joy and motivation to stay committed even when it was hard. And so many of us are going through things in our personal lives that can seem overwhelming. And sometimes what has happened is that we have lost touch with our future stories, or we can't seem to get in touch with a future story that brings us hope and joy. And there are so many times when we may be grieving, but what we don't understand is that we are grieving the loss of a future story that we may not even been aware of. And so the future many times is what enables, the thought of a future is what enables us to go on. So a strong commitment comes down to knowing where you're going, knowing where you've been, and knowing where you are. And then understanding that you don't have to do it alone. And this is key. We show up on Sunday mornings here in this virtual Zoom space, I hope, because you're getting something out of our time together. Maybe it's friendship. Maybe it's a sense of purpose and connection. Maybe it's a meaningful message. And hopefully it's a little bit of all of those. But it's always a choice to show up. And sometimes it's hard, but we continue showing up for a reason larger than the present moment. And I've said before that the vision I have for this little church here in Little Grand Junction is to be a point of light in our community. And that is what my commitment is, to helping this space be a point of light. But I don't do that all by myself at all. I get to say that we are a point of light because we have the joy and commitment and the gift of John Mayo many years ago, knowing how to put together an amazing sound system, which allows us to offer things to the community in the form of memorial services and weddings and coming together in a hybrid type of way during a pandemic. We have Laurel and Melissa, who are not only committed to the health in this valley, but are constant and committed voices of social justice in our community and connecting us constantly with people who are doing amazing work through Grand Junction Mutual Aid and RAW and all of these other organizations. We have Maya, who is so incredibly talented in her artistic ability to put together my vision of how things can be in a order of service and in beautiful pamphlets and flyers with her computer skills every week. And we have Sandy, who a while ago said, we need to get some food to the Navajo Nation, and put out a Facebook post, and our sanctuary was filled up in 12 hours with food, and then trucks going to the Navajo Nation. And we have Janver saying, I still have a song that I want to sing at this stage of life, and gifting us with his beautiful music last week, and Miriam's beautiful music today. And we have Puka, who tirelessly cares for and advocates for and helps make sure the homeless community has access to food every Saturday. And it goes on and on and on. Because when we are committed to something and we are using our own sense of joy and purpose and creativity to contribute to that, we become that point of light. And it comes through each one of us figuring out what brings us joy and committing that in our own way to that sense of purpose within our own lives. And that is the last thing I really want us to understand, that true, authentic commitment always, always can be entered into with a sense of joy. If you're committed to something and you can't find any sense of joy in it, maybe that's when you begin to question if you're committed to the right thing in the right way. Notice I didn't say if it's hard or if it's scary. I said if there is no joy in it. And just like there's a difference between being nice and being kind, there's a difference when I talk about that inner sense of joy versus something just being easy or simple. The joy goes much, much deeper. And it's not easy waking up and reading the newspaper that a member of our community was violently murdered this week. There's no joy in that. That creates fear, and it creates sadness, and it creates heartache. But there can be joy in looking somebody in the eye and saying, I'm going to commit to do everything that I can to make sure that this never happens again. There can be joy when you team up with like-minded people to do work that is very hard. It's not easy, but within the struggle, there can always be joy. And so Maya Angelou opened us up today with her beautiful words, and I'm going to close with her today. She says, we need joy as we need air. We need love as we need water. We need each other as we need the earth we share. Joy, love, and each other. Those are the true marks of commitment.